Greetings, welcome back to PinkOddBird. Today we are here to make some little ephemera holders. I was watching Liz the Paper Project and I really got inspired by what she was making. I will link her video down in the description box below, but this was just my take on a really kind of fun interactive ephemera holder, and today I will be using elements from Amanda's subscription box, which is known as Your Creative Studio. So I'm really excited to show you how I make this little ephemera holder, and also to dig into this box and see what we can get and make something cool. And what's even more exciting is it's going to be something for you. To get started, I'm picking out a paper pack that I'm going to use to cover up this little ephemera holder. This is called In Bloom, and it is by Recollections. So this is going to be the paper that I use for this project. To start out, I'm taking 8.5 by 11 cardstock, scoring it at 6 inches on the 8.5 side, and then I'm going to open it back up and score it at 4.5 on the 11 side, and fold it in half. Once I do this, I'm going to flip it over and score it where the flap and the folded page meet. So that's going to effectively create like a little closure flap for us. Next, we're going to cut out a little tiny sliver of this paper where the crease is, and then we also want to cut out that chunk on the bottom left corner, that little square there. So we're going to cut inside the score line and then outside the score line. So that's how that goes. Next, we are going to cut pieces down for the back or front cover, I guess, however you want to look at it, to 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. I did measure some of mine wrong, which I'm not surprised or shocked, but that's okay. We're gonna just cover up the excess space from my miscut with just some book page, and I actually end up liking that because it gives it a nice like collaged look in the end, and I think that worked out because I did end up adding other stuff to it that made it look a little bit more collaged. So nothing is ever a problem. Even when you make a mistake, it's just an opportunity for you to find a different way to do something than you might have originally planned. So I'm cutting out these little punches here. I cut out 3 of the scalloped and 6 1-inch punches, and I'm going to glue 2 pieces of the 1-inch together to make a little bit thicker piece. until I have 3. You don't have to do 3, by the way. I'm just doing 3 because I'm making 3 of these little booklets. So don't worry about that. If you're only making 1, then you can just do this, you know, times 1. And you can distress the little pieces if you want them to stand out from the background a little bit more, and I did. Actually, you can distress the whole thing if you want to, but I wasn't doing that. So we're going to cut the little piece for the flap here. This is 1 3/4 by 5 3/4. And then if you have a punch that can reach over into the center of that little scallop punch, you can use it there. If not, you can do like I did and use your awl. And don't forget to please be careful when you're using sharp tools. So next, I'm just going to take a little bit of this twine and feed about 1.5 inches through the hole that we just made in the scalloped punch. And you don't need very much of this string, maybe about 6 or 7 inches should do. I'm going to find a little brad here and then set it along in that same hole where the string is, and then take a little stripe of glue and stick the string down just to make sure it stays in place. Then we're going to punch a hole in a corresponding spot on the flap. This is how we're going to get our closure created. So if you have a punch that can reach over there, then just punch it with your hole punch. If not, you can use your awl. And then we're going to use our little 1-inch pieces, find another brad, set the brad, and then our closure is set. Okay, while I have the opportunity to actually do some talking in the video, that is what I will do. I may have to go back into sped up mode here, but for now, I'm gonna just go ahead and do this in real time. So the next thing that I wanna do is measure these 2 back panels. So this one looks like it's 4.5. So I wanna cut 4 1/4, and then over here, 4 1/4 would work. It just would give me a little bit smaller border, and I'm okay with that. It's fine. So 4 1/4, 4 1/4, and then we know this is 6 inches, so we want to cut it to 5 3/4. So I'm going to cut 6 pieces that are 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. Okay, and I'm going to repeat the same process on the other 2 booklets. All right, now that we've gotten all of the back panels on, we want to cover this, and yes, we are going to also cover this. You can do it differently if you just want to seal yours down here and make them pockets, but I just want this to be a little bit more interactive so that I can fill it up with a few more things. So we're going to measure these down now, and so we've got, so we'll need something that's 4 inches by, it's just about 2 1/4, so we'll say 2 inches. Okay, so we have 2, we'll cut them down to 2 inches, maybe like 2 1/8, because 2 1/4 is like pushing it. I mean, it could work, but we'll do 2 1/8 by, what did I say? 4. And then we'll need 12 of those. So 2 1/8 by 4 1/8, and 12 of them. Now that we've got all of the pieces cut out, all I'm going to do is glue them down in pocket format, so gluing down 3 sides, and then when you're gluing the inside ones, you want to make sure that there's no glue here. So I'm going to smack it down like this. Some of these came out a little bit shorter than 4 1/8, but it's really okay. This is just a little ephemera holder, and you know, it doesn't have to be exactly precise, especially if you have pieces of ephemera that are all different sizes, and I really just didn't want to have to like make more scraps, so I just ran with that. It's okay. It's really okay. All right, so there we go. And then we'll do this side. So when we're gluing them down, so now we have basically just like an opening right here. So we're gonna do the opposite on this side. We'll do the opposite on this side. So we'll take the glue, we'll glue down 3 sides, and we just wanna leave the upper, like the top loading portion of it open, just like so. Do the same thing over here, and I will then repeat the same process on the other 2 booklets. All right, now that we've got all of those little pockets on, your little project should be fully covered, just like this. So the next thing is I have a lot of this like packaging stuff that I've saved over time. So what I'd like to do is I'm just gonna cut this little bag open. This is a really good way, I think, to upcycle this stuff. So I would like to put this down over these 2 areas. So I think what we can do here is we can cut some of this out. You can measure this. I think I'm going to try and just eyeball it as best as I can. Just to figure out where you want it placed. And then I'll cut it here. This stuff is so finicky, that's why I'm like, is it worth it to measure it? I don't really know. And then right over here, along this edge, I'm kind of just following the score mark that we've made on the little booklet. So that's how I'm measuring. Okay, so we've got that, and we should have something that pretty much goes right over this little pocket. And I'm just gonna cut this down a little bit just because I want it to be a little bit shorter for reaching inside of it purposes. And the way that I would think that we can get this adhered to our little booklets is you can either use your tape, or you can take this over to your machine and just stitch it right on down. So I think I'm going to try and do this on my machine and just stitch the little pocket down. So I'm going to figure that out and I will be right back. I'm also going to cut a pocket for this side as well. So you guys, it's turning out really good. And like I said, I'm not terribly worried about this being perfectly straight or anything. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. You get to still look at all of your pretty paper, and then you also get to upcycle by using a really good deal of this, a really good portion of this like plastic stuff. So yeah, it's turning out really good. So I've got 1 more to do and I will be right back. So now we're all done with this, and as you can see, the pockets are in. The 2 things that I would remind you of when you're doing this is if you're gonna sew, remember that we have a brad in here. So you wanna make sure that if you do some kind of like dual pocket, you remember that you have a brad in there, and don't sew over your string closure. So now we're ready for the fun part, well, even more fun than this, and that's filling it up with some of these Your Creative Studio goodies. So let's dig in. I think this is a glue stick. It is. Well, this is neat. And it smells good. Cool. Can't wait to use that. Maybe we'll do a little collage so we can give it a try. These pieces were a little bit too big, but the good part is they're perforated, so I'm just going to fold these in half and tuck them into the little side pocket that I have created in this little ephemera booklet. And I think it's coming together so nicely. It really just starts rounding out, and when you start putting all these like really pretty things in there, like these little journaling papers, so pretty. So yeah, and I'm just going to tuck some of these little journaling labels into the back pocket. I think at some point I do realize that I could put the second set of journaling labels in the front pocket, and so I move those around, I think. And then I'm just coming back over to the paper pack just to add a little bit of accent to this little booklet. And I think that's a really great way to use those like pages where it has like little cutout pieces. So that's all I did. I just used some of those little cutout pieces just for accents, and on each of the booklets I glued them on as pockets. So in the future, when whoever gets these wants to use them for something else or add something else, there's an additional little pocket there. So yeah, this is pretty much it. This is how they are coming out. I'm going to add these little transparent stickers here and there randomly on each of the three. Just trying to get all of this stuff like used up in a really pretty way. I'm super happy with how this is turning out. Oh, and then on the back, I do want to add a little bit of collage for writing space. So I'm using those little decorative collage papers that she sent, and I really wanted to try out this glue stick, and it really works well. It sticks down pretty fast. It's called Glue, Gloo, and I think it works great. I used regular Aleene's glue to stick down the cardstock because that's a heavier piece of paper. And then I'm using some washi tape from one of the past Your Creative Studio boxes just to add a little bit of accents, and then some stickers here and there, and then they're all done. So let me know what you guys think about these in the comment section down below. And that is going to wrap it up for me for now. Be sure to stay tuned because you never know what direction this odd flock of ours is heading into. And until next time, toodaloo.